Okay,
So
tell me about the silver medal, because my
okay.
like general Wikipedia level understanding is that there was like they did the medal ceremony, and this is topical now,
Very
and she was the
topical.
bronze medalist, and
Yes.
then they re-medal ceremonied to give her a silver.
Yes. Imagine if what happened at the Paris Olympics with the floor final and Jordan Chiles and Anna Barbosu, but they brought Anna Barbosu back out after the men competed on something, and then they brought just Anna Barbosu out and she had her own medal ceremony. That is what happened at this World Championship. Norbert's has a sale on vinyl and chalk cleaner. You know how hard it is to get chalk off of everything? Yeah, there's stuff for that. And Norbert's has 10% off sale on it. Go to norberts.com for 10% discount on anything with the code GYMCASTIC. Norbert's is also giving away a $50 Norbert's gift card that can be used on anything in their online store. No minimum. Just follow Norbert's Athletic on Instagram and comment on the giveaway post. This show is PG-13, so you might hear a naughty word or two. Simone has been on the late shows promoting the tour. Jordan Chiles was in Fashion Week. We have the history of a gymnast with major kidney issues like Suni Lee. And gym reputations we're going to discuss along with the gymternet news. It's September 9th, 6 days until I go to watch Simone's GOAT Tour rehearsals in San Diego. I'm so excited! Welcome to the #1 gymnastics podcast in the galaxy. I'm Jessica, and I'm here with Spencer from the Balance Beam Situation. Let's talk first about the very important headlines. Spencer.
Okay, what was the most important headline?
The most important headline is that Simone was on Jimmy Fallon on the big NBC late night show in the U.S., and she's promoting the tour and explaining why she loves her diamond-encrusted goat necklace. And her answer was perfect because she was like, fans love it, and they love the goat thing, but also the haters hate it. So... it's
doubly fun. Yeah.
It's doubly fun, and we love that. Also, relatable. She talked about how she was handed, the Olympic flag to hand it off to LA.
Yeah.
And she was totally nervous and was the most nervous of the entire Olympics because she's always tripping and falling downstairs.
She is a gymnast. So
she's a gymnast. Of course, she falls
tripping.
and trips all the time. And we know that she rarely can find the right direction to go in to find the stairs in the first place because that's what she's famous for.
Which is also what we know. Simone's going to win if she messes up the walkout.
Right.
If she goes the wrong direction, then she's relaxed enough and she's going to win.
Exactly what happened in Paris. Also, she said, she basically gave instructions for the Olympic procedure for 2028. Yeah. And I'm like, are you guys paying attention, USAG? Did you write this down? She was like, yeah. And first she was annoyed because she was like, can't I just live? Why is everybody asking what I want to do next? And of course, like anyone who has a lot of sponsors, she wisely was like, I don't know. We'll see. I'm leaving the door open.
Yeah.
So like all gymnasts do. But she did say like, well, maybe I could do it if I could like tag in and tag out. Like I can tag out of beam, tag out of bars, tag out. And I was like, hello, you guys.
Specifically.
Tag out of bars.
So to me, that means I want to do LA 2028 if I can be an event specialist.
Right. So like, this is how it should be written, that you're automatically taking an event specialist if they've been to 3 Olympics. Just write that in the rules.
Right.
You have to
definitely a cue. Give Simone specific instructions of exactly what she needs to do as an event specialist to make the Olympic team, and don't make it all wishy-washy and like, the needs of the team, we'll see, because then she's going to be like, why bother?
Right. Exactly. Make it so that if she is top 2 on 2 events, she goes. That's all we need, right? That's realistic.
Sure.
Yeah.
So basically, what this means is we've moved on to LA 2028 conversations.
Yeah.
Paris is done. The next Olympics has started.
Yes. As is what we're prone to do. Because, Worlds is happening this year. Simone's not going to be there. It's a really weird, not this year, 2025 Worlds.
You've moved on. You're in 2020. The Olympics are over, so the gymnastics year is over. We've moved on to NCAA 2025 season and Elite 2025 season. It's 2025, everyone.
Yeah. Speaking of college season, so a lot has happened in the last week over at Rutgers, which is a university in New Jersey. And the Rutgers head coach, Ume Salim Beasley, is under investigation by an outside law firm for a toxic and bullying team environment, according to Patch.com. This comes after the Rutgers athletic director suddenly resigned for health reasons, but is also, according to the Newark Star Ledger, under investigation for a, quote, possible inappropriate consensual relationship. And all of this comes under the background of the investigation into the gymnastics program, where gymnasts have alleged, there's 7 gymnasts that came forward, and 7 of them alleged that there was retaliation, bullying, one of the most egregious of which comes from Braden Batavio in Essentially Sports, who said, quote, I was told I was being cut because of decisions the doctors made to redshirt me because of fractures in my back. Never had a warning, she wrote. That's bad. That's bad and one of the worst kind of retaliations. Also, I believe it's against NCAA rules to cut someone for an injury that they had in the sport specifically. So we'll be following the situation closely and we'll let you know what happens. The gymnasts have specifically called for Ume to be suspended pending the results of the investigation. So we will follow that closely and tell you what happens. We're just going to get all the crap news and
do all the bad ones. Yeah.
Yes. And then we're going to tell you about really fun stuff. So here we go, you guys. Gymnast Nguyen Minh Triet of Vietnam. He had a really bad accident in training and had a neck injury, paralyzed him. That was 7 months ago. He has died now. So that's horrible and a reminder of how incredibly dangerous gymnastics is. And it's incredibly sad. Also in the news, Kara Welsh, a 21-year-old University of Wisconsin-Whitewater gymnast, has been murdered. Her man who claimed to be her boyfriend and former wrestler at the same university has been charged with her murder. He said that they got into a fight and he tried to wrestle a gun away from her and he was defending himself. And in defending himself, he shot her 8 times. And the report says that some of those shots happened while she was in the fetal position. So you can see how it was definitely self-defense and he's for sure telling the truth. It's horrific, and this is not the first time an athlete at a college has been murdered by a man or someone, a fellow student. With all the things happening this week and, traveling to other countries so often, every time I come back, I think, why do we live here? Why do we put up with this? And I also think about how 99% of these cases are men killing women and boys being the mass shooters. And I just think, when are we going to address this? Nancy Armour wrote a really great story about this and about women living in constant fear. It just shocks me when I talk to women in other countries and they're like, yeah, I'm never coming back to the United States because I never worry about walking down the street at night alone. And I'm like, what? You don't? Yeah, literally. Never. I never worry about it. Traveling alone at any time of the day, I am never afraid. And I was like, how is that possible? But men exist in your country, right? Yeah, not a problem. And everybody that says keep politics out of sport, well, politics arrived and murdered a gymnast. So that's how they're always part of sport. So it's horrible and makes me super pissed. Let's move on to the good news.
Okay.
Andrade.
That is always good news.
Has made her NFL debut.
But that's less good news.
But it makes it better. Rebeca. The NFL's better now. So there was the football NFL went to Sao Paulo and they had a game there. They usually one game in another country. And so a bunch of Olympians and athletes attended this NFL game, the Brazilian ones, and Andrade was one of them, of course, obviously.
Of course.
So I watched some of this game because, I live in the same house as a football fan. And they didn't show her, as far as I know, during the game. What? I was like, what's even the point of being in Brazil having a football game?
Okay, other question. Why didn't they send Simone's husband's team to there? And then Simone would have gone and she and Rebecca would have just sat together and been like, isn't football dumb? Our sport's way better than that. And they would have laughed and they would have toasted cocktails together. It would have been great.
Oh, it would have been so good.
This is such a missed opportunity.
This is what
These
NBC...
people don't understand anything.
NBC should really be paying for is having sending Simone to comment on these games and hang out with Andrade. Like, what a missed opportunity. I mean, she is like rehearsing for the tour right now. So there's that.
Still.
Yeah, I know.
But come on. She can do the tour in her sleep. They better not be having her do anything that she can't do in her sleep. There are a lot of stops on that tour. Do you see that schedule? They're going nonstop for like 2 months.
It's a major tour. It is.
Ugh.
Yeah.
On the other topic of missed opportunities, why wasn't there a USA versus Romania elite dual meet scheduled for like right now?
Oh, Steve Penny would have whipped that up so fast. He would have had it.
Bring Steve Penny into it. We're done with the sad part of the episode.
There's
already.
no one.
I have to bring the mood down again.
Should we ask Lily for our friendship games?
Yeah, we need a Lily to organize a USA versus Romania friendship in quotes games.
I like it. I like it.
USA versus Romania dual meet. Come on.
And when I said there's no
elite, we could rustle up some elites to be able to do a meet right now, probably. Come on.
Hold them all out of college. It'll be fine. Speaking of, when I say there's no one good to talk about, I mean there's no one good to talk about from all past USAG presidents, but that's specifically what I meant. But Lily, current president of USA Gymnastics, and probably the best one they've ever had, is being honored by Sports Business Journal's Game Changers Class of 2024. It is an annual recognition that celebrates 50 women who are making significant impacts on and driving changes across the sports industry. She's just in the class. She didn't win the whole thing. I think they need to really, honestly, like reevaluate this award.
Class. It's egalitarian.
No, I'm not for that. If Lily doesn't win, have you seen her workout? Like, have you seen it? Like, she's. You could still put her on beam today. Is what I'm saying. She could beat all these bitches. Whoever else is in the thing. I know it's not a competition, but honestly,
let's see it, Lily.
Oh, she could do it.
This beam routine. I want to see it.
Remember when she's trying to do the handstand contest and wouldn't give up so much because obviously she's a former elite gymnast that she just until her arms wouldn't hold her, she just slowly plopped into a headstand. That is why she should win. So those are my feelings.
The level of competitiveness has to be there.
Right. It's very serious. Like when people, okay, this is the other thing I have to talk about on the social. Simone posted a funeral for the vault, so for the Yurchenko double-pike, not for vault.
So, I mean, she might. It might be that she's Simone
like,
just announces, no. Also vault is over.
Yeah, vault, I'm done with it. It's stupid. I don't care for it. But she posted basically, it's a picture of her sitting on the vault, looking demure, and then she's surrounded by a lot of flowers all around the vault. It's like dark. And she was like RIP to the Yurchenko double-pike. And some people question, like, wait, I don't understand. Like, if she was that afraid of that vault, why did she do it? What I have to explain to you is gymnastics, gymnast mentality. There are no, like, if you're not afraid at a certain level of at least, 2 or 3 of the skills that you're competing at any given time, you're not, I'm worried that you're not doing gymnastics correctly. Like, there are some things that you don't have to be worried about, but if you're not worried every time you're doing a double flip of some kind, I'm a little scared. I'm a little scared for you. So you're basically terrified of something every time you do it because you need that. So why do it? I mean, these are the type A personalities who go on to lead the world in various ways. This is who gymnasts are. They love a challenge. They love to, be terrified.
And this is why the rest of us are not top gymnasts, because it's like, I'm not doing that.
No, it's just too scary.
Too scary. Why would you ever? Stop it.
It's too scary. Or B is like, it hurts. That hurts really bad every time I do it. Why would I do that every single time? It never stops hurting. It always hurts. No, it's no good. That's how I felt a lot of things on beam. Ow and ow again. But speaking of top elites who were like, I don't care if I'm scared, I'm doing it. Skye Blakely has announced her intentions to try for the 2028 Olympic team.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah. And I'm like, thank God, Skye, it's going to be your time. You're going to have all that competitive experience. You're going to be like, beam. I eat beam for breakfast.
She's like, I would have made 2024. Which she would have if she'd been healthy. So you know.
She would have made
Oh,
2024.
I mean, if we were still doing good, juicy fluff pieces,
Oh,
90s style,
can you
can you
imagine?
imagine the like Skye and Shy 2028 trials? Sorry, Shy, I've already decided that you're at 2028 trials. I don't know if that's your plan, but it is because
She
I've
said
decided.
she said it's her
Okay.
plan. We have
Okay.
Gabby, Skye, and Shy are all confirmed 2028 already.
The fluff has written itself.
I'm very excited for this. And then if Giucello does it too, it'll just be them floating in a pool with one knee or Achilles in the air. That's what's gonna be. They should recreate it.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be so great. And we're talking about recreating for the uninitiated, the famous. We do have a whole podcast that you can listen to just on fluff pieces. And was it Mochiano floating?
Mochiano in the inner tube? Yeah.
Right. Getting her vitamin D
just
because
floating through the shot, just in and out in an inner tube. Ugh.
So good.
It's not as good as the one where she's in that fake forest, just like clawing the trees of sadness.
Yeah.
Where they have her just like rubbing trees about how like things haven't gone great for her. It's also a real classic.
Also, gymnasts outdoors. That's cute, but they don't outdoors. It's a problem.
Oh, it wasn't outdoors. That was a set. Don't worry.
They don't get enough vitamin D. It's one of the problems. That's why at Round Lake in the old Soviet Union, they used to make them run around outside first thing in the morning because you got to get your vitamin D. Speaking
also,
of
that one of my other favorite things, speaking of gymnasts running outside, the Olympic Channel all around with Mustafina being like, I have to jog at the beginning of the day, and then she's like like negative 2 miles an hour shuffling through the streets, just like, no. It's how I feel about running, and it makes me feel seen.
Yes. Running is the worst. You guys who run, there's something wrong with you. It's okay. Just admit it. It's fine. So Jordan Chiles made her runway debut at the Fashion Week. There's a Fashion Week happening now. Oh my God.
Isn't there always a Fashion Week happening?
I know. I feel like there's so many Fashion Weeks. I feel like this is like spring Fashion Week. So I have to say, she looked really good. Like, normally when there's a gymnast in a fashion show, it looks terrible. They styled her so well. Of all the people they had, you can scroll through this article so you can see. I mean, everyone else looks bad. But she looks really good. Like, I was like, they just like this fabric, so they just pasted it on people. But she honestly, she looks so good. It's basically a leotard with a little poof. And it's like, it looks like it's velvety silver with like a blue floral thing. And she's just, in her leotard with like a poof coming out at like a cape for your hips. What would that be called? She has one of those. But she's serving. Her face is perfect. She understands the performance.
Yeah, she's watched a few seasons of America's Next Top Model, I feel like.
She knows what she's doing. And then just with her beautiful muscles on display, her tattoos on display, and some, shoes, just some sneakers. It's perfect. I was so shocked they styled her so well and she looks so good. I was like, this is very well done. I'm highly impressed. I mean, really, all the other gymnasts that have been in fashion shows are really going to have to pick it up now because this is now the bar has been set by Jordan. Except the time Simone, this doesn't count as a fashion show, but remember when Simone was in that fundraiser at a museum where you wear insane outfits? It's every year.
I don't remember. The Met Gala?
Yes, that. See? The Met Gala.
I know what you're talking about. I don't remember the situation.
Beacon, the USA Gymnastics team therapy dog, has been hospitalized. There was a GoFundMe for him. He had surgery. He had some tissue removed from his lungs, had some fluid. He seems to be doing a little bit better, but I'm horrified that he doesn't have full protection of the. Yeah, he is an American dog, so obviously, just like us, he doesn't have. The healthcare's trash. But I would like him to have much, much better insurance. I would like him to be on the gymnast plan, please, for his health insurance. I am very upset that he's a working dog and needed help to cover his bills. So, but speaking of good things that have happened, Former Stanford gymnast Larissa Fontaine. Remember Larissa Fontaine?
Sure do.
Great U.S. elite, went to Stanford. She and her husband have endowed an assistant coaching position to help retain and recruit top coaching talent. And the first person who's getting the Fontaine Langfeld, that's her husband, women's gymnast assistant coaching position, inaugural position, is Hallie Mozette, who has been there for a couple years now, does their choreography, does a great job. I'm very excited that Hallie will be staying there. Hallie also just had a full hip replacement. So not from gymnastics, though. You might be thinking, hip replacement at 27? Oh my God. There are athletes are very young and need full hip replacement, but hers is actually from a car accident. You would think. But also like needing hip replacement and doing all of that gymnastics all those years, it's amazing. Every time I find out just how injured these gymnasts and elites are by the time they get to college and still compete, I'm like, how are you doing this?
Yeah.
But they're not normal people, as we would previously discussed.
And thankfully, we have another coaching position with an insanely long name, because you know how I like when you're not just the head coach. You're like the John C. and Catherine T. MacArthur head coach of women's gymnastics. So this is super long. Fontaine and Langenfeld women's gymnastics assistant coach. Great.
Oh my God.
Tabitha's already the Rogers family director of women's gymnastics. And like Janelle McDonald is what? Something. There's something long. It's super long. It's some rich endowment position. I think they all need to be like as long as possible. It needs to be like you're watching Masterpiece on PBS.
Yes.
And it's all of the people, all rich dead people, and their still living wives who've donated money.
We have to say the full endowment names every time.
Every single time.
Would you do it?
Okay.
Can we say this?
Rogers family director of women's gymnastics, Tabitha Yum. So that's the full thing. The R.C. Rothman UCLA gymnastics head coach, Janelle McDonald.
And the
Fontaine and Langenfeld
women's gymnastics assistant coach,
Hallie Mozette.
Oh my God, we should acronym these two, though, but that would be very fun. I want to talk about
Fluigak, Hallie Mozette. Rolls right off the tongue. You're still muted.
I'm sorry. It's you guys. I'm still recovering from being sick. If you made it through behind the scenes this last Friday, I mean, there was some really funny, good stuff in there, and you should listen to it. But also, it was rough because I was barely making it. Obviously, no one else in this podcast can even relate to how sick I was. So, okay, when gymnasts throw out the first pitch, because
I'm an expert.
It's a thing that happens. You know all about it. So Simone has done it. Jordan has done it recently. Jordan actually made it to home plate, which is very impressive. Because some people they can't throw it that far. But I'm like, you're so strong. And their name's Simone Biles most recently too. It bounced. But Hezley Rivera just threw out the first pitch.
She missed she did not understand the assignment because it was good.
She
did a good one.
Did an aerial.
She did an aerial and she made it home. She made it all the way to home plate. It was a solid one. And I was like, Hezley, you don't understand your heritage in this regard. You're supposed to throw, it's supposed to go sideways. It's supposed to dribble out of your hand and bounce 10 times. It's supposed to be like that time Mariah Carey just sort of like plopped it on the ground and then posed.
I feel like we've had some epic first pitches by gymnasts.
Yes, so there is an entire post on the bounce beam situation about gymnasts' first pitches and the gifts of them.
The best one ever is the rhythmic gymnast who did an allusion to pitch.
I mean, by post on the bounce beam situation, I mean of the bad ones.
Oh yeah,
I don't care about the good ones.
Obviously, you only have the bad ones on bounce beam situation. I will make a note to fact checker. We make a note to put a link to that in the show notes so that everyone can benefit from the joys of our Fluff Piece podcast and also the first pitch balance beam situation recap. Secondly, okay,
there's also a good one when Caitlin Ohashi did a softball first pitch and it just went right sideways. It was boom, not just fully sideways.
I that she practiced that too, and then I was like, meh.
No,
But the best ones. So the illusion to throw, and then they just did one arm back handsprings all the way down. I think that must have been Susan Jackson. But Susan Jackson also did her back head spring. That's right. She jumps backwards onto her head, bounces off of her neck into a standing position. She's been doing this since she was a little kid, and she had it in her floor routine. I'm like, all right, the floor routine, the floor has actual springs in it. The baseball pitch, or whatever it's called, does not have. Is it a pitch? Ground? I don't know.
It's a mound. It's a
baseball mound of dirt. Sans spring.
By the way, a soccer player tore her meniscus throwing out a first pitch.
No.
Yeah. So that happened. So watch out, gymnasts, because we know how clumsy you are. You might tear your meniscus throwing out a first pitch.
It's going to be like skiing now. How you can't throw out a first pitch, and you can't. Well, Ellie, don't try so hard. Like, this is not your thing. Show off your other talents, like back handsprings and front handsprings and aerials and leap down into a, something. And remember, everything's harder with shoes on. So if you don't train with actual shoes on your feet on bars like Becky Downey, then maybe don't do your gymnastics with it. Remember the story about, who was it? Caitlin White, I think, at WOGA, when she was like, oh yeah, people, this is the first WOGA generation of great elites. And she was like in high school, and people said, someone asked her in high school, oh, you're a gymnast? Like, prove it. So she was wearing combat boots, because those were very popular in the early 2000s.
There was a time.
They're back in now, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But so she did a backflip in combat boots and almost died, she said. So just be aware of your fashion choices before you do this. Olympic gymnast Levi Jung Ruivivar, also known on this show as Ballerina of the Bars, signed with Viva Artistry Agency to pursue acting and modeling, and following in the footsteps of her parents, who are both actors. Ellie Black, this is the best news. Ellie Black won the Fair Play Award from the Paris 2024 Olympic Games.
Correct.
This is the most perfect thing ever. Ellie Black is truly like a leader and respectful and lovely, and that is exactly what this is from. It's a joint initiative between the IOC and the CFP, recognizes athletes who exemplify the spirit of fair play, sportsmanship, and respect others. Ellie Black. That's literally her middle name. It's very long, but you learn to say it fast. Peng, just like the sponsored coachmanship, the sponsored coach positions.
Yeah.
One, Peng Peng Lee, Canadian elite and NCAA gymnastics champion, who's always been a singer, but now she has a video out and a really good song. I feel like she's the one that's going to make it, Spencer.
Wow.
Like, Carly Patterson's songs weren't bad. She just didn't have the
Star
I don't
power.
know. She didn't have the something
X
behind
factor.
her. Yeah. But I thought she would make it, because she was very much in like the Avril Lavigne kind of genre of the time. I thought she very much fit. But Peng can sing. She's been playing guitar and singing and writing songs since she was little. And Vanessa Zamarripa, stunt woman and also NCAA champion, and the first U.S. elite to compete a chung, directed her music video for Pretty Please. I think it's called Pretty Please, or Pretty Please. And they have won an award, the Honoron Best Music Video Award for Pretty Please. And it's very good. I was totally impressed. I was like, oh, I knew you could sing and I knew you could dance, but like this whole package, it's very well done. I'm impressed. It's super catchy. If you listen to the song, you will be singing it. Just so you know. Prepare yourself. Things to look forward to this week. I'm going to Simone's Goat Tour rehearsals. I'm going to see everything. I'm going to talk to everybody. I'm going to tell you everything. So September 18th, special behind the scenes. I will tell you all the things about the Goat Tour and watching it and everything that everyone has said. I'm so excited to answer all of your questions about it. And I can't wait to tell you, because honestly, if you get a chance to see the tour, I saw it last time, there's already something in it, you guys, that's making me so happy. I am so glad they integrated this. I can't wait to see it. I've only seen it performed in a parking lot so far. It's one of those things that would make Spencer totally cringe and me jump out of my seat and clap for. So I can't wait for it. Oh, I can't wait, guys. Okay, so that'll be on the 18th, special behind the scenes. It'll be after work for East Coasters and after work hopefully for our West Coasters too. So 18th at 5 p.m. Pacific. And I'll answer your questions. Coming up, we have the second half of Simone's documentary coming out. We have our interview with Nellie Kim coming out. We have a whole bunch of mini commissions coming out, which are our club members who have either won through the Fantasy League or who have chosen to support us at the world champion level or higher, get us to talk about anything that they want for 10 or 15 minutes, but it has to be tangentially gymnastics related. We also have a horror movie gymnastics feature mini commission coming up.
Whoa.
That will be for Halloween. One of our fantasy winners who won during the Olympic fantasy game has commissioned that. I'm very excited for that. But I hope it's not too gruesome because, I can't watch the gross stuff. So I hope it's not too bad. I could barely watch Final Fantasy. In addition to these things, our very own fact checker has penned a book, a memoir with Simone's first coach and through 19 World and Olympic medals, Amy Borman. And you can order it now. It's called The Balance. It's on pre-sale now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And, pre-sales really help with the rankings, you guys. So you're going to get it. So why not get it now? And Simone wrote the foreword to this. So you get to hear from her as well. All right, let's start with our mini commissions for this week.
All right.
The first one we have from world champion level Club Gym Nerd member Ro, who says,
my favorite gymnast circa 1989, Brandy Johnson, sharp, her kidney issues. Were they blown out of proportion? Training with the Carollis, coaching her kid, all of it. Pretty please.
If you want a mini commission too, you can join Club Gym Nerd at the world champion level at gymcasting.com and you get a little survey and fill it out and then you tell us when you want it by and then we talk about things. So, Spencer.
Yeah.
Who is Brandy Johnson? Let me tell you.
Tell me.
Let me explain. She is a coach. Coached her daughter, coached to elite and at Florida, through to Florida. Stunt woman. She's a 1988 U.S. Olympian. Those were the famous Seoul Olympic Games where the U.S. team would have won, but then there's a gymnast on the bronze, winning a bronze. It's still winning a bronze. Yeah. Simone said...
you said U.S. would have won, and I added bronze, because if you say won, that implies gold.
Like Simone said, the men actually won a medal this time at the Olympics. And by that, she meant bronze. That's winning bronze. Yes, thank you for clarifying. She also finished 10th all around at that Olympics, which is
U.S. finish.
The top U.S. finish and 5th on vault. And this is this was when the Soviet Union still existed, by the way. This is the Boginskaya years. That's how good Brandy Johnson was. That's all you have to know.
She was in the top 10 with Boginskaya.
Boginskaya. Yeah, she was amazing. She's also the 89 at the 89 World Championships. She was a silver medalist on vault. And this is the days before this was common for Americans to win medals.
Huge deal.
A huge deal. A silver medal at a World Championships is a gigantic. This is before Shannon Miller. This is a huge, huge deal.
Okay,
so
tell me about the silver medal, because my general Wikipedia level understanding is that there was they did the medal ceremony, and this is topical now.
Very topical.
She was the bronze medalist, and then there was a score something or other, and then she tied for silver.
Yes.
And then they re-medal ceremonied to give her a silver.
Yes. Imagine if what happened at the Paris Olympics with the floor final and Jordan Chiles and Anna Barbosu, but they brought Anna Barbosu back out after another event had happened, a men's event. The men competed on something, and then they brought just Anna Barbosu out and she had her own medal ceremony. That is what happened at this World Championship. So what happened, she placed third, but what happened is, according to the German broadcasters at this World Championships, who were commenting what is happening right now? We have never seen anything like this happen before, but we were about to do, because they were about to do the men's ceremony, for whatever, men's high bar or something. But then there's Brandy Johnson just standing there by herself looking very nervous. And what they said was that they entered the score wrong. There was an entry mistake.
Would be like what we've now learned about the 1968 Mexico City floor final with Czeslavska, that the scores were circulated incorrectly.
Exactly. So they didn't actually change Kozlovska's, well, they did change Kozlovska's score, but they only corrected it to be the correct scores because her score should have carried over and there was a mistake in the entry. So her total wasn't correct. And that's why, so there wasn't anything nefarious going on. They were doing the right thing. And so,
well, also, I mean, it was the 1968 Olympics, so there anything nefarious going on? I'm sure there was.
But not directly related to why there was a delay in her score. But yeah, so she has her full medal ceremony, getting her bronze medal. She leaves. Her coaches put in a protest. They find that the scores were entered wrong, according to the German broadcasters. And then, so they re-enter the scores correctly, and that puts her at a tie for silver on vault. So she had her, they put her up on the podium. She stood there alone by herself in the silver medal spot. They gave her the silver medal. It was Ellen Berger, by the way, who gave her the silver medal. You want to tell people who Ellen Berger is?
Ellen Berger is probably most famous for being Bella Crowley's arch nemesis. But she was the special, the superior back in the day. 1984 Olympics, 1988 Olympics. So there was issues with her and Bella about Bella trying to be the star and getting on the floor with Mary Lou and not being allowed. And that was a whole thing. And then 1988 with the team and the deduction for Rhonda being on the podium. And then the U.S. was fourth instead of third. So there was a lot of previous with Ellen Berger and the U.S. team.
Ellen Berger, Bella Crowley beef is legendary.
Yeah.
So that's who gave her the correct id medal. So she's also known for mastering 1980s gravity-defying bangs, breaking every toe but one.
Mm-hmm.
And did you know she could do a full twisting Tkachev back then?
I did not know that.
Yeah, she had a full twisting Tkachev.
I think she had a super high Tkachev for any time period, really, but especially for the 1980s.
And we have this full twisting Tkachev. Do you know what we have to thank for that?
What?
Her jacked up kidneys.
Okay.
Let me explain.
Okay.
So one of your questions, Ro, was, were her kidney issues blown out of proportion? No. She was born with a kidney condition that required surgery when she was 4. So basically the ureters, the little tubes that go from your kidneys. I'm illustrating on myself right now.
Just the showing.
Yeah. I'm showing it like, where your little tubes.
But we also can't see that part of your body, which is good.
The little tubes that take your kidneys, they take the pee from your kidneys down to your bladder. Mm-hmm. Those were messed up, and she had to have them replaced when she was 4. But let me tell you, this is how you know she was a gymnast. She was allergic to painkillers, whatever painkillers they had in 1978 or whenever this was. So she had the surgery with no painkillers. No wonder she grew up to be a gymnast. So this was also pre-laparoscopic surgery. So they didn't make a little cut and put a tiny microscope, a little robot that just swam on its own and fixed things in there. No. They, according to the Tampa Bay Times, they cut her open from hip to hip. She had ribbons of scars from the surgery. And then later, to strengthen her stomach muscles, because back in those days, they just slit everything open. They just they didn't carefully take them apart like sometimes they can do now. To strengthen her stomach muscles, her doctor was like, you should put her in gymnastics. Genius. This doctor we have to thank, and her jacked up kidneys for all her wonderful gymnastics. So in a March 1990 story, it was reported that after the American Cup, what a
1990 gymnastics headline, by the way, to put
it's the worst.
Brandy Johnson falls by the wayside. Which, if you've ever done any research into gymnastics articles, pre-1996 or before, it's always Nadia Comaneci is disaster. Olga Korbut, old now. It's just horrible always. Anyway.
Oh my God. One of these stories, like reading the stories that were written about her, was so just gross. It was one of the stories ended by talking about her. She's not a bubbly teenager anymore. She makes her own decisions. And it ends with a quote with her mom saying, "Yeah, it's kind of sad, but she's not that bubbly little girl anymore." And I'm like, you did your job. She grew up. Like, oh my God.
Or, oh, gymnastics coaching in the 80s / now.
Mm,
Now she's sad because it was
right.
horrible.
Because it was horrible. And she did talk about this. So anyway, she later, even though she'd had these, the ureters replaced as a kid, she developed a kidney problem early in 1990. And it became serious enough that doctors performed an exploratory surgery. And then 8 days later, she competed because,
Sure.
yeah. And then it was found later that she had kidney stones. So, which she said was the worst pain of her life, which people do say kidney stones are horrible. Oh, please don't let me ever have kidney stones. Leave them to Simone and all the people that can handle pain. So, were her kidney issues real? Yes. Brandy Johnson's daughter, Sydney Johnson Sharp, who went on to be a great elite gymnast, had 2 different floor routines because she was such a good artist, went on to compete at Florida. She also had the same kind of ureter problem when she was a kid. So you asked about coaches. This is very interesting. So Brandy Johnson was coached by Kevin Brown in Florida her entire career, except for 9 months pre-88 Olympics.
When you have to go to the Curlies to try to make the Olympic team because everyone knows how the game is played.
And that's exactly what she said in a Chicago Tribune article in 1990. She said, "When you're young, you figure Bella Caroli is where I have to be." But she also said that the pre-Olympic experience drained her emotionally as well as pushed her physically, causing her at one point to consider quitting before the Olympics. She said, quote, "I just couldn't do it anymore." Johnson says now of her time at Caroli's, "I needed a life. I didn't do anything but gymnastics 10 hours a day. If I stayed there, I would have ended up hating the sport." And in this article, she also goes on to say that part of this was that her family basically split apart for 9 months so that she could go to the Crowleys. Her dad and brother stayed in Florida, and she and her mom moved to, share a little apartment together in Texas. So I'm not saying that she was saying that was 100% due to Bella Caroli, but it happened. What's also interesting is that after she left Browns, or after she left Bella after the 88 Olympics, she decided to make a comeback, and she was coached by Kevin Brown. And that's when she did really well at the 89 World Championships. And then she made another comeback in 1990. And that's when she had the kidney stones. But when she decided to come back, Bella Crowley called her house and talked to her mom and said, "Oh, please have Brandy call me." And she said in this article, I didn't call him back because I didn't want him to be able to say that I called him because he would blow it out of proportion. And then Kevin Brown, her coach, went off on him that he only cares about himself and he's a narcissist and like he's pushed it too far. And I was like, oh yeah, if only people would have listened back then, because he is exactly who you saw. So I just want to, of all the things that she says about this, I just want to say, like, I think people expect to find like where anyone that's been coached by Bella Caroli, I think people expect to find a definitive statement from someone that they've proactively made that condemns them. But I think one of the things that looking through her quotes over the years have really confirmed is that, just like we know about people, and like I said when we did the Parkettes documentary recap, people aren't all black and white, and there's conflicting reports and conflicting feelings. And someone can also be, like people have said about Marta, like, yeah, she's a genius. And also she was like a total bitch. But also I learned a lot of things from her. Like she was helpful for me in this way. Like people are not all one thing. And that seems to be kind of her view on Bella Caroli looking back at her quotes. And one of those things comes up in the 1990 Goodwill Games. Because previously she had said, Bella was a great coach. He taught me I could work harder than I thought I could. And this is what a lot of elites say about a coach. Like they took them to the next level because they didn't know they could be pushed that hard and survive it. And they did. But in the 1990 Goodwill Games, she did not get the spot for those games because she fell on beam. So Erica Stokes got it. Erica Stokes was coached by Bella Crowley. Brandy then, because she didn't get the spot, scheduled surgery for her toe, one of her many surgeries that she had like pins in her toes because she broke every toe but one. I mean, maybe she's broken that one now. I'll have to follow up with her and ask about, did you get the 10th toe broken? Come on. There's got to be a prize for that. So she scheduled surgery on her toe. So after she'd scheduled the surgery, USAG called, what was USGF back then, the United States Gymnastics Federation, called her and asked her to be an alternate. And she was like, no, because I just had surgery on my toe. Like, duh, if you're going to have an alternate spot, maybe you should have an alternate spot and not just ask people randomly. So she said she really wanted to go, but she couldn't because she just had surgery. So then Erica Stokes got hurt and couldn't compete at the Goodwill Games. So USGF called Brandy to compete again. And again, she was like, no, I just had surgery if you would have told me earlier. So there's also a Washington Post article that says USGF said that Brandy Johnson accused her former coach, Bella Caroli, of concealing Stokes' injury to keep Johnson out of the competition. The thing that I question about this article, because it's from Christine Brennan, and Christine Brennan is, you know, if you want to know what's really going on with anything at the top level, like at the IOC now, we look at Christine Brennan's tweets. I mean, obviously look at my tweets first because they're from Gymcastic, because obviously I'm the one that told you that the USAG and USAG and Romania agreed to share a medal. And then later, Christine Brennan, I am putting myself in the same category as Christine Brennan now, you guys. That's what I'm saying, because like literally we've gotten there. But if she has something about the IOC, she's right. She always knows what's going on. We've talked about her communications with Home Slice of the Dick Pound.
Okay. Wow. Sure.
The oldest serving member of the IOC, Dick Pound. She always gets the dirt from Dick Pound.
But you didn't even do the innuendo right. It's longest serving member. Oldest serving member.
Damn it! So the point of this, Spencer,
I would love to know.
It is, I believe anything that Christine Brennan writes, because she's always right about this. But also, I could not get to this article in the Washington Post archives, even though they have other of her stories, because she's not with Washington Post anymore. Other ones of her stories are on Washington Post, but not this one specifically. But it would be weird that USGF gives a quote to someone and says, oh yeah, this gymnast who we tried to give the spot to twice is saying that, you know, Bella concealed this injury and knew about it all the time. Either USGF is throwing her under the bus, or they're throwing Bella under the bus, or like, what would the motivation be for USGF to tell the Washington Post, we couldn't get an athlete here because she is basically saying, I was retaliated again. Bella Caroli's an untrustworthy.
I mean, I don't know. Many different possibilities. Someone feeling pissed off and wanting to vent to someone is often where journalists get great information that they probably shouldn't get and shouldn't be told. When people are really pissed off and they would just need someone to talk to about it, and they can't talk to anyone at their workplace because they might not have people who are sympathetic at their workplace, so they talk to journalists about it. And also the idea of like concealing an injury to keep someone on the team, or because so your ego is fed by having enough gymnasts, having the most gymnasts on the team, is gymnastics 101. So that is not surprising at all. Especially
from Bella. Yeah. Gymnastics 101.
Wrapping up Brandy Johnson, because I feel like if you're, you weren't contemporary with Brandy Johnson, you're a post Brandy Johnson gymnastics fan, just a super fun gymnast to watch. And I think it's a worthwhile, pretending to work YouTube distraction, like rabbit hole to go down just to watch a bunch of Brandy Johnson routines, because such a dynamic gymnast and just a joy to watch. And also one who comes up a lot in the gymnasts who were gymnasts in the wrong era conversation, because of her tremendous power and her potential on vault. Like, you look at her handspring pike half on the horse vault in the 1980s, and you're like, right now, bring it to NCAA. And her double back dismount off beam is so good and so high, chest up, landed safely, even though it was the 80s and you're landing on like basically concrete. A really great, you see that and you're like, oh, 2000 Olympic team, perfect. Once the vaulting table was invented, perfect. It would have been so exciting to see her in those eras.
Yep. It's funny that looking at these articles too, she talked about how she'd had like, you know, threats and stalkers and, you know, people sending her flowers from other countries and stuff like that. And I had no idea, like, she was such a like haughty sex symbol of her day. We were just talking about this with who was the very first, you know, gymnastics sex symbol. Because that's what people used to say. That? We were talking about that in our American anthem recap.
Oh,
I just listened to again.
Oh, you re-listened? I haven't. That hasn't happened to me. That hasn't happened in many years.
Because I re-listened to all the ones that are best of episodes to see if there's anything that's super offensive that we would never say now that we said. Yeah. So I play video games and while I listen and then I make my notes. And we were talking about
Mitch
Gaylord, that he was like the second sex symbol of gymnastics. But then I was like the second. So. But I was like, Nadia was maybe the first. So, or was she the second? So who was really the first? But then I was like, well, who?
Well, it's gross to say that Nadia, because she was so little.
No, not Nadia as a kid, not grown-up Nadia. Nadia in the jockey ads, Nadia era. Only the adult. I'm only talking about adults. I was thinking like I think it was the men first. I mean, Kurt Thomas was all like, you know, lathered up, shirtless, doing pommel skills on over everything in the 70s. And but then I was like, Kozlovska, super incredibly popular, especially in Japan. But I'm like, who? But then you have to think there was like the just newspaper pictures of gymnasts, and then there's when TV started. And when TV started, I was talking to Uncle Tim about this, and we're like, TV changes the game, as we know. But I don't know, you know, who.
I mean, they did have TV in the 60s.
The 60s is kind of what I think like the Kozlovska era and why she was so popular all over the world. But then you have Kathy Rigby, who posed nude because like their Sports Illustrated body issue before it was called the body issue. She did that. So yeah, I don't know. But the point of my story is I used to work with someone who, when I met, like, when found out that I did a gymnastics podcast back in the day when I had a regular job and this job, was like, do you know Brandy Johnson? And I was like, who? No one has mentioned Brandy Johnson's name in like 30 years. What? He was a teenager during the Brandy Johnson Olympics. And this man still the torch was strong. And I assured him, I was like, she looks exactly the same. The hair, poof, and the whole thing. Like, she has not aged. And he was very, very pleased to hear that. So thank you so much, Ro, for your mini commission. If you guys want to check it out, you can do so at gymcastic.com. That's where you can do it. And thank you for supporting us. It really, like, people who support us at this level, it really, really makes a difference, and we really appreciate it. And we have another one. So this is from World Champion Level Club Gym Nerd member Laura, and she says,
I'm becoming a gymnastics fan in my late 30s, but never participated in the sport. I would like some cliff notes about the larger gyms and well-known coaches and what knowledgeable people think of when they hear someone is training at a given gym. Woga, Gage, Twin City Twisters, and Metroplex come to mind. I know more about WCC, I think, but feel free to include them as well if there's time. I know this may get into some of the difficult history of coaches with varying reputations for possible athlete mistreatment, but even a high-level overview without getting into every detail would be really helpful.
Okay. So, go ahead.
No, I was just listening. That was my listening face. Sorry.
Oh, you're listening. I was like, you start, Spencer.
Oh,
this isn't a minefield.
Okay, me starting is, I think there's too much attention paid to what gym people come from in a way that they're identified like Simone Biles, World Champion Center. And it leads to the coach becoming, and this was obviously much more a problem in the way that gymnastics was broadcast, 20, 30 years ago, the coach becoming kind of the star rather than being a member of the support staff, which is what a coach is, and the gymnast is the star and the gymnast is the one doing it. But that's generally my feeling about gyms, because most of them pretty bad, especially if they've been around a long time.
Honestly, like, part of it is, I feel like these things should be associated with the coach. If there's a coach that has a bad reputation, it shouldn't be necessarily about the gym. It should be more about the coach. But I also really appreciated this at this Olympics, is finally they got the message, like, we shouldn't be hardcore promoting these coaches. I feel like we heard much less of that. You can confirm. I don't know if the prime time was like that, but as opposed to, we had that one Winter Cup where Nastia and Tim Daggett just talked about how great Valeri and Woga are and how they're the greatest. It was like a commercial for Woga. And that has since ended and stopped. And that was it's very different how the coaches are centered. They're not in the specific rights holder, NBC in our case in the United States, how they talk about coaches.
And that is one thing I like, kind of the World Champion Center model, where the business of the gym is separated by who the elite program coaches happen to be. We saw Amy Borman be the coach of, Simone and the elites at World Champion Center, and then she moved to Florida. Laurent and Cecile come in. They're the coaches of the elite program. Cecile's now at Georgia. We'll see, what the future holds at World Champion Center, but it's more about, like, I don't think World Champion Center has an identity in terms of the type of gymnast you see, necessarily the type of gymnast or gymnastics you see coming out of that gym. There's quite a bit of diversity. And a lot of that comes from, gymnasts like Joss Robertson, Tiana Sumana-Sekera were, at other gyms for a long period of time, kind of developed their technique and developed their gymnastics at other gyms and then come in. So it's not like, that's set. That's the type of gymnast you are. You can change and you can develop skills and all of that. But it's kind of, you don't see a cookie cutter type of gymnast, which you do see at other gyms. And I like that you don't necessarily see that at World Champion Center. Whereas if this commissioner asked about Gage, there's a lot you can say about Gage and the number of safe sport allegations against Alphonse. And that's a huge start of it. But if you're talking about the gymnastics, you also have a very specific style. And a very specific style of floor routine that maybe it's a tango and you've been given it, and you're going to do it for 6 years and you're going to pose around and just like, that's your floor routine. So there's a very specific style that almost all of the gymnasts at that gym have that you don't necessarily have at other gyms where you've seen more turnover in terms of who the coaches are.
Yep. I agree with that. So you want us to go through some of the gyms. So to give, like, let's talk about Gage for a minute.
Okay.
So yeah, Alphonse confirmed over 50 safe sport allegations, some incredibly violent. And for some reason, he's not even on the list. In terms of Armane, who does, most of the coaching there, she has, a very specific style. There is, like, if you love Soviet gymnastics, she comes from that system. You will enjoy their gymnastics. The one thing I can say that the way, because not everything is black and white, I can put, there are many things. One of the things that I like about the way that the training is, it's also terrifying, but I like that the way that Gage trains, there is, in terms of tumbling and air awareness, they let the gymnasts learn it for themselves in a way. And by that, I mean, so they will just tumble and tumble and tumble and do drills and not get a correction every time. It's not stop, wait till it's okay to go. They just like go. And I feel like this is one of the things that like you do when you do gymnastics by yourself. You just like go and you figure things out. And there aren't a lot of gyms that just let gymnasts do that. And you learn by doing in a safe place, on a tumble track, onto mats, into a pit, not like hard landings over and over and over like we saw in the Parkettes documentary, CNN. I went to Parkettes camp, so I can tell you Parkettes. under the that's my personal opinion, having been just at summer camp for a week in the 80s. I was like, this place is a crime. And then it was all documented in the CNN documentary. Who's coaching now? What's it like now? I don't know. But I will say there are a lot of people that love it and they feel like it's family, and they had a great experience there, and they have tons of college gymnasts from there. So, it's not all black and white, depends on who coaches you. But I will say that the way that Gage coaches, I feel like their gymnasts have such good air awareness and are able to do skills so effortlessly because they have mastered that one part of allowing gymnasts to figure it out for themselves and not overcoaching in that one particular way, tumbling.
Yeah, and I think with if Laura's asking for a general, high level overview, I think the overview about Gage is you're always worried about it because of all of the allegations and the stories we've heard over decades and decades and decades, and also people love watching Gage gymnasts because of lovely basics and toe point and flexibility and all of those things. So you all will also hear a lot of praise for those gymnasts and gym nerds loving their gymnastics because it is enjoyable to watch a lot of the time, and that's part of it as well.
Fluidity and attention to detail, Gage. Woga,
two different wogas.
Two different wogas.
Have to separate.
Most important thing.
There's a Valery Lukin woga and a Yevgeny Marchenko woga.
They're very different.
I think the Valery Lukin woga came to awareness when Vanessa Adler went there in 2000. I think that's when a lot of people became aware of that. And then the Yevgeny Marchenko woga with Carly Patterson being Olympic champion in 2004. So and then Nastya Lukin, the Valery, because she's a Lukin, becoming Olympic champion in 2008. So it was, woga was spent a lot of time as, at least a decade as the place to go, because this is where the Olympic champions are, and that's the kind of the history of gymnastics, that there always has to be a place to go. So
right.
Talking earlier about the Carollis, and you go to Carollis when you want to make an Olympic team, and there always is the place to go, which I guess world champions would be now. That's the place where you go. I would say the woga Valery especially reputation is you're going to be great when you're 16, and then we'll see.
Or before 16, yeah.
Or 15.
Beautiful.
And maybe you can hang on like Nastya at the Olympics.
Yeah. And then Yevgeny Woga, I would say it is a generally healthier elite. Not necessarily, generally healthier, I would say. But they both have sort of the same, I would say, if you love like beautiful aesthetics and dance, neither of them, you have to come in with your own, because there isn't a lot of building that. A lot of broken wrists, a lot of like fakey dance, like not fake dance. It's just, except Skye is bringing it a little bit at the end though. So I'm hoping that's changing, but I wish they would get a choreographer and work on dance more that Yevgeny Woga, because it could be so good. Twin City Twisters. It's interesting reading Maggie Nichols has a book.
You were about
out.
to say Maggie Haney.
Maggie Haney,
a very different person.
We're not going to talk about. We're not talking about MG Elite, because it's
did not ask about MG Elite.
Not allowed to coach, so we're not going to talk about it. But I would say, much like Gage, MG Elite, if you want a beautiful gymnastics, and then there's all the other stuff. But Twin City Twisters, Maggie Nichols has a book out about her time there, and it's really interesting because there is a lot of the same kind of learn a skill, do it for yourself, just go and do as many repetitions as you want to learn a skill. And I think that's can be really healthy if it's done in the right, appropriate way. I had some questions about some things in her book. I was just like, oh, this is seems like too much and overuse to me. But it depends on the athlete, depends on the event. But I would say Twin City Twisters is another gym that do a great job with dance. If you love actual expressive dance, they do a really good job with that. But they've had one Olympian.
Grace McCallum.
I think it's another gym where there seem to be a lot of injuries. You know, what program doesn't have constant injuries that we know about? I mean, yeah.
I think of Twin City Twisters gymnasts as being super consistent and
Yeah.
not necessarily having the precision of gymnasts from other gyms, like in terms of toe point, in terms of things, but in being just like very solid.
Yeah.
Very able to do it and very prepared to succeed in college gymnastics, where it's like go up, hit your routine week after week, ready to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I always think of them as like if you want to recruit for a level 10 for college, Twin City Twisters is where you want to recruit.
Going to
from.
be very interesting because the other coach that you see at elite meets besides Sarah Jancy, Seth at Twin City Twisters is now an assistant coach at Cal. So he left, and I'm very interested to see how that kind of manifests in Twin City Twisters gymnastics in the future.
And their other coach left and went to Utah, and now Tom Farden is coaching at Twin City Twisters after leaving Utah. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, I would say in general, I really enjoy watching the gymnasts from Twin City Twisters, especially on floor. They usually bring something special, not necessarily the precision of like a gauge gymnast, but they know how to perform, which I really like.
There's no such thing as a gym that doesn't have problems or gymnasts who've had a problem with the coaches there.
Yeah.
Like there's no gym in the country, in the world, I would say, where it's like, ding, 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 a gold star, 5 out of 5, nothing wrong here.
Yeah. All of them have something. Yeah. So, yeah. But in terms of, is there any other gym you think Pacific Rain is another one. And in terms of like gyms that have elites right now who are in the mix that are going to the competitions that made it to trials or close to going to trials, Airborne in California and Pacific Rain in Seattle area. It's not even close to Seattle, but Everett. It's so far, especially with traffic. But nobody knows where Everett is. Stylistically, fantastic, amazing gymnasts. The style, the precision, the crazy ass skills, like so fun to watch. And like, especially Airborne, like these two gyms are making a point with the artistry. They are like the ones that are hiring choreographer who's always there. It's part of the workouts. Like they absolutely stand out to me in that way. And I'm really excited to see what happens with those gyms in the future. Otherwise, like gyms, Metroplex, not really. You asked about Metroplex, but I feel like they don't have as many elites as they used to.
I don't have a strong impression.
Yeah. Of currently. Any other gyms that have like more than two, at least two elites? I can't think of her variant. People are going to write in with like 17 names, but like the main ones that you hear of and
which Laura asked about. Yeah. What do you think of when you think of them? Like usually it's not great.
Yeah.
Because there's so much history in gymnastics. Usually it's like, oh, you're going there?
Yeah.
Well, all right.
Yeah. Which when then there's the which ones do we love watching gymnasts from? All of them. All of them have gymnasts that you love to watch for one reason or another. Either they have a crazy skill or they have like beautiful gymnastics, like for all different reasons. Yeah. And then you just hope everyone just finds the right place for them that is the right fit, just like college.
And you minimize stigma about gym hopping because gym hopping is good.
Yes. Find what fits.
Find the right fit for you.
Yes. Just like Fact Checker always says.
And if you go to a gym and you're like, oh my God, like I walked in and there was a Trump banner, I'm leaving. That's fine.
That's not the place. Yeah.
That's not the place for you.
But just like Fact Checker always says, people don't leave jobs, they leave bosses. So if it's not the right fit with the coach for you, find another place that fits for you. Then don't be afraid to transfer to a different school too. If you're going to a college program, you're like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. Well, let me find a better fit.
I was promised a close group of sisters, and it's not that.
Oh, all right. Give me like 1 or 2 words or phrases to describe each gym. So,
Yeah. Like not being a downer, like
right.
the gymnastics.
The
The
gymnastics.
gymnastics of each gym. Yeah. When I think of Woga, like the routine I think of is that Nastia beam routine from the Pacific Rim Championships where she got that
Yes.
9 score back when that was possible, where it's just pristine and it's a joy to watch. And it's both cleanly executed and completely confident in every moment. And that's like kind of the epitome of why you want to watch Woga gymnastics.
Mine is oversplit leaps, where you're like,
Mhm.
oh, all the credit, that oversplit leap. And then Ukrainian bars. I think of Oklahoma gymnast Audrey Davis, who came from Woga, and just seeing her as a junior and just being like, oh, I'm transported to Ukraine right now. It's so beautiful. And she's continued that. Gage.
I would go, oversplit for Gage. Beautiful dance elements, even though it's kind of become like the Kara Akers beam credit has become synonymous with Gage. It's still, like, her beam dance elements remained lovely and remain lovely. And we're very excited to maybe see her at Georgia continue competing her gymnastics career. So it is the basics, the execution of the elements, the pointed toes that I think of when I think of Gage.
For me, it is acrobatics with especially double Arabians, pike double Arabians with pointed toes, flat knees, legs together. Perfect. You could take a picture of any time in the air and it's perfect. That's what I think of when I think of Gage. Twin City Twisters.
You're going to hit to make an Olympic team.
Yes.
Because that's what Grace McCallum did.
She did.
When there was the all-around standings and she was like, I am neck and neck with some other people. I'm going to hit. I'm going to stay on these apparatuses and I'm going to hit to make an Olympic team.
Me, it's an Oklahoma beam rotation. That's Twin City Twisters.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
I mean, it often makes up most of an Oklahoma beam.
Yes, like you love Oklahoma gymnastics. Yes, their roots are there. WCC.
Like I said before, I don't think there is the same characteristic of gymnastics, but I think what's been so enjoyable to watch from WCC has been feeling like the gymnasts are able to express their personalities, like comedy champion Zoe Miller, and being able to, like, I'm on social media and making fun of Simone and Jordan because we're friends, and like look at them on bars and training, and it feels natural and not you're worried about someone being upset because someone said, oh, she's mad at them because of this. It's just like normal people acting normal.
For me, it's your bars are going to get better and you probably won't hate elite gymnastics anymore. How do you go there? That's my general. Because like there isn't a style, but there is like I agree with you.
There's a vibe.
Your personality as a human being will not be regulated. It will not be you're not going to be told how to behave as a person there. I guess that's one of the things that I like the most. Yeah. Thank you so much for your support, and thank you so much for being a Club Gym Nerd member, because this is how we can afford to do things like go to Paris to cover the Olympics and go to Jakarta in a couple months. How soon is that? It's very soon. It's like
more than a year.
And that's not more than a year. Oh, it is more than a year because it's October. Why do I keep thinking we're going to Jakarta in like June? We have over a year.
You might be, but it's not gymnastics related.
Because honestly, I'm just like, oh, those plane tickets, Jesus, they're going to be so expensive. That's all I can think about right now. Because, it's going to be, how long is this? Like an 18, 20-hour flight or something?
You're going to have to change planes like 68 times.
I know, but also I'm not going to just buy you and Deanna a regular seat. Like you guys are always like, I'll be fine in a regular seat. You don't have to buy me a fancy seat. And I'm like, no, it's too long for that. You need to be stretched out. You need to have all your lymph nodes can flow correctly and safely. Well, I mean, I always get a seat for that fits your body in it because you're so tall. But 18-hour flight from here. That's not that bad. I thought it was like 24 hours. We hope you enjoyed last week's best of with the American Anthem episode. I laughed a lot re-listening to that. We're funny,
Nice.
Spencer. Thank you guys so much for joining us this week. I am off to watch Simone. So we'll have behind the scenes on Friday that I'm off to watch Simone's tour rehearsals. And then we'll have our regular episode. And then the 18th, we will do our, at 5 p.m., we will do our special behind the scenes all about Simone's tour. And I'll answer all of your questions and tell you guys all about it. Tell you my favorite part that I'm already excited to see that's in the show that will make Spencer cringe, but it's so good. Until Friday on Behind the Scenes, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your support. And remember to take up on gay, split on rights, and we'll see you on Friday for Behind the Scenes. Thanks for listening.